Hello, I am Allison Seamers, and this is my favorite brain part presentation. So for my favorite brain part, I chose the amygdala. Honestly, I just chose it because quite a while ago, I read an article about how in people who watch the news a lot, their amygdala tends to be bigger than people who don't watch the news. And I just found that really, really fascinating that there is like a biological reason behind anxiety outside of how we traditionally think of it. So, the amygdala is a small almond shaped structure inside of the brain, and it is actually a part of the limbic system, which is crucial for human survival. The amygdala and the limbic system as a whole is crucial for detecting danger and plays a major role in behavior, emotional control, and learning. So, the anatomy of the amygdala. The amygdala comprises a group of nuclei, which is a cluster of neurons. So we have the basolateral complex, which is the largest of the neuron clusters and located roughly in the lateral and middle parts of the amygdala. It includes the lateral, basal, and accessory base nuclei. And then we have the lateral nucleus, which is the major recipient of input from sensory cortices. And then we have the cortical and medial nuclei of the amygdala, which receives information from olfactory sensation. So there's a lot of different input going on here and a lot of different nuclei dealing with the various sensations. So the function of the amygdala functions in regulating anxiety, aggression, fear conditioning, emotional memory, and social cognition. The amygdala is necessary for learning by fear, as amygdala regions disrupt the acquisition of both active avoidance and passive avoidance of condition response, although this does not affect retention. So I've kind of understood it as sort of like it's not necessarily the amygdala itself that's contributing to the memory of these stressful events. So the amygdala has a modulatory effect on the acquisition and the consolidation of memories that evoke an emotional response. So tying back into the limbic system there. So the amygdala is usually associated with fear. However, it is also important for regulating aggression, eating, and sexual functions, and most functions that pertain to those. Okay, so some fun facts about the amygdala. So the amygdala was named after the Greek word amygdale, meaning almond, due to its almond-like shape. As somebody who took Latin for 7 years, I always love finding the Greek and Latin words, so I found that to be pretty cool. The amygdala is a paired structure, so it actually has parts in both temporal lobes. And then scientists ran a lot of studies on animals where they removed the amygdala. And so they actually do believe that it's possible to live without one part of the amygdala. And also in the animals that they removed one part from, they actually showed less fear. So I thought that was pretty cool. So then patients with diagnosed PTSD generally have a hyperactive amygdala and tend to overreact to memories of the traumatic event. Obviously, when I'm saying overreact, I mean like within a scientific standpoint and not actually just calling people with PTSD dramatic, of course. And then this is probably my favorite fun fact. Progesterone, which is a hormone that is released to support pregnancy, actually increases the reactivity of the amygdala, which if you think about it kind of makes sense because, biologically if someone's trying to get pregnant, they probably want to do what they can to protect that child from any threats. And so this information scientists have been using to explain why women who are experiencing premenstrual symptoms respond more violently to some life situations than they did when they were not experiencing postmenstrual symptoms. So yeah, that was my presentation. I learned a lot of fun facts, and I really enjoyed being able to look into this a little bit more deeply.